Hey, my name's David Landis. I'm a sculptor here in Atlanta. I've got my studio that we're in right now down here in the Summerhill neighborhood of Atlanta. I'm originally from New Jersey. I've been here long enough where, I almost say y'all now. So I almost finished with my degree, and I started working with some leftover cement that I had, and I carved it, and I made this really interesting object. And I found that really just enlightening. I was just hooked immediately from working with my hands. I should have seen it earlier. So I rented a studio. It's now the Imperial Restaurant out in Decatur, but that was my first studio back in 1990. And I was there for a few years, and then I was robbed. And they took most of my tools, and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then I was robbed again. They took Band-Aids and magic markers the second time I was robbed. I'm like, all right, I am just out of business. So I thought, all right, well, I'll go back to Georgia State and I'll just take a class there until I can replace my tools. And as soon as I walked in that building, it was this creative, wonderful, amazing place. It was Jack's department store. They converted into a classroom off on Edgewood Avenue. So I started taking classes there, and then I wound up getting a master's degree. I wound up teaching. Teaching led to commission work. Commission work was better than teaching, so I left, and then now all I do is commission work. But getting robbed, which I thought was terrible at the time, really does taught me to, keep your eyes open, keep positive. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I was working as a graduate student. We were allowed to go to this scrap yard and pick up scrap metal for a contest. But I found a bunch of the stainless steel. It's like, oh, this is interesting. And I grabbed it, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I started working with the stainless steel, and it was just an old sink. And I chopped it up, and I turned it into something. When I polished it, it just was kind of eye-opening for me. I was like, wow, I'm really intrigued by this material. It's got qualities that are just absolutely magical. You see your own reflections. The mood of the sculpture changes depending on time of day and light, time of seasons, and people's faces are reflected in it or not reflected into it, and colors rebound. I just find it really enticing. Stainless steel is a little stiffer than mild steel. It's a little harder to bend. You have to work with it. There's lots of different types of stainless steel. Some are more stiff than others. It still welds nicely. I got the nice welder back here, but it's still very stiff. Stainless steel is a little stiffer than mild steel. It's a little harder to bend. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I have these cardboard rollers, and so we can roll pieces that way. But I also have a big rubber mat that I lay down, and we hammer, and I use a number of different rubber hammers of different consistencies to kind of push and pull. I really follow natural themes. Even the abstract pieces are still inspired by natural themes, whether it be wind currents or water currents or things of that nature. The leaves, they kind of took on a life of their own. They just really kind of took off. There's a lot you can do with them. Lately, we've been really busy. We've installed 6 pieces this year. I find them beautiful and interesting for different reasons. There's an abstract one in Sarasota. There's the clover ring I did in Swanee, and then there's the clover forest we did up in Lawrenceville that just unveiled. There's not one in particular that I can talk about. I just find all of them very interesting.